Hello and welcome back to the final part of our hat trick of National League Natter podcast. Now, there's a slight change in lineup tonight at last minute because, as you are aware, it is currently Thursday. It'll be Friday when you're listening to it, and that means we're hitting you with a preview podcast. And normally on the previews, I'm joined by Lauren, but because she is currently traveling around America at the minute, she got her time zones mixed up, meaning that she wasn't going to be able to make tonight. So that means I've managed to draft in Chris to make it 3 from 3 in a week of the same duo. I don't really know how we're still running, to be honest, but we've got it done. We've got it done. Chris, welcome to your first preview show. How are you feeling looking ahead to Saturday's games? And also, how do you feel about the sort of graft and shift we put in for free podcasts this week?
Well, thank you very much for getting me on the preview show. Happy to be here. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple. It's been a long week, I think, for us. But look, we're very excited to be back for another episode.
Always very excited, mate. Always very excited. Now, how we normally start the preview show is every week I get Lauren to focus on a game that we call Lozzie's Game of the Week, because technically she is here by default in terms of she doesn't have any National League ties, but we brought her on the podcast because she supports Stockport County, who historically have one of the longest runs in the National League. You know, they were in here for, 10 years, even dropped into the north, so she knows a lot about it. But she's just recently started getting back into it and getting more interested in the National League since we started doing this podcast. So to go alongside with that, I give her a segment every week called Lozzie's Game of the Week, where I pick out a fixture every week for her, and she has to make me a few minutes match report and a ref report to go with that. So obviously we haven't got Lauren today, but we've got you, Chris. So would you like to take the reins and do what would have been Lozzie's Game of the Week, but turn it into your Game of the Week for us, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take it. So, the game of the week was Altrincham versus Eastleigh, and going into the game, Eastleigh were the only team to have a 100% record, and that did continue with Chris Maguire scoring in the 72nd minute with a penalty. And yeah, overall, Eastleigh were very strong, and kind of, as we talk about on the review show every week about Altrinham's struggles this season, that did continue in this game. And look, Eastleigh probably deserved the win and were quite dominant throughout the game. You know, they looked really strong, playing a 5-3-2 against Phil Parkinson's 4-4-1-1 formation, and Eastleigh didn't even start their star man, Paul McCallum. So it was interesting to see how they lined up and how they rotated, but how they still got the victory. So really strong performance from them. And from a referee point of view, there were 4 yellow cards, and the referee was Zach Kennard Kettle, and he did have the ability to
What's the name
award a
that is,
penalty.
by the way?
Oh no, we love a double-barreled name on this podcast.
Love it.
Yeah, I've seen the penalty, and I did think it was a penalty. So for the referee score, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I've not seen too many complaints. So
I tell you what, you can tell Lauren's not on the podcast tonight. I don't think she's ever going to be applied for a referee before. So yeah,
no, from what I've seen, it was a penalty. So
just for the avoidance of confusion for our listeners and viewers, no, you aren't trapped in a time machine. No, we haven't gone back in time. Basically, this podcast is only a weekly podcast, so we are covering the games that I give Lauren last week on last Thursday. And since this podcast, there has been another game involving Eastleigh, which was a 1-1 draw at the on Monday, on the Bank Holiday Monday. So obviously that has happened, but we are just specifically focusing on stuff that we give in this podcast. So that's why Chris was talking as if that was Eastleigh's latest game, when in fact it wasn't, but it just makes sense for this podcast, really. So then, also the other one I kind of wanted to talk to you about as well. So we pick out a joint game of the week that we do a bit of a review of together normally when this podcast comes around. And am I right in thinking our joint game of the week this week involved your boys, and it was Southend versus Barnet, wasn't it? So again, I feel, considering you're a Barnet fan, you're probably best placed to talk to us about your thoughts and feelings of that, and Again, I apologise for it looking like we've gone back in time here, but it's just for this opening section. So yeah, just upon the game of the week and your thoughts and opinions. Number one as a Barnet fan, but then number two a little bit more journalistically for us.
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think we played really well and probably was one of our strongest performances of the season. Against the Southend side, which I wasn't really sure what to expect when we got into the game. Obviously, they've started the season up and down, but look, we started off really strong and kept the ball. And a screamer from Harry Chapman, literally unbelievable, 25 yards out, bottom left corner. And look, I think that really gave me some hope going into like the next couple of games for us. Obviously, we don't talk about what happened at Maidenhead. That was an off day for us and a really disappointing day. But look, I think that was a really strong performance from us. And look, I think from us, we started the season okay, probably not as well as we'd like to, but it was a good performance. But from a Southend perspective, I think they'll be very disappointed because they never really got into the game. Maybe in the last 20 minutes, they're sort of playing the ball out a little bit when they got their second goal, but their first goal. But I think Southend will be disappointed how they played. But from a Barnet perspective, I think that was a really strong performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to highlight that I'm in the camp of I can be a bit smug now because I can say that our game against Aldershot was an off day because it's our only loss of the season so far. I don't think it runs for a Barnet fan when you've already lost 2 games this year out of 5, and I'm being honest. But if that's the way you want to play it, if that's the way you want to play it, then you can play it like that. So now, shall we have a look ahead to this weekend's and just go down the list? And first of all, I'll read the list off, and then maybe we just pick out 2 or 3 fixtures each for things that will catch our eyes and probably the reasons for. And then what I'm going to do is, because after tomorrow night's live stream for the transfer deadline day, which will be available on all of the deck social media platforms, by the way, so check it out. We're doing 2 shifts. We're doing 7:30 till 9:30, and we're doing 9:30 till 11 o'clock, I believe it is. But that's all going to be on one live stream, obviously, but it's going to be with 2 lots of hosts. So it's definitely worth checking out. But then after that, I am going away to Vegas for a week for a very well-earned family vacation. So that means the sort of, I was going to say the fate of the podcast, but that sounds a little bit miserable. The well-being and the excitement of the podcast lies with Chris and Lauren for the next week. So Chris will be back again with the preview show with Lauren a week today, and he will also be doing Monday's review show with her. So with that being said, we need to pick out a tie of the round that you two can discuss together on next Thursday's show, and also we need to do a loss of the game of the week that you can give her and she can tell you for next Thursday. So we'll look to do that. But first of all, I will just go through top to bottom and read the list off for people that don't know. So on Saturday the 31st of August, in no particular order, we have Aldershot Town versus Maidenhead United, Altrincham versus Oldham Athletic, Barnet versus Tamworth, Boston versus Yeovil, Dagenham and Redbridge versus York City, Ebbsfleet United versus Halifax, Fylde versus Southend, Gateshead versus Eastleigh, Hartlepool United versus Braintree Town, Rochdale versus Woking, Solihull versus Wealdstone, and Sutton United versus Forest Green Rovers in the half 5. Now, straight away from me, if I'm being honest, I think there's more sort of games in this week that seem sort of difficult to try and call straight off the back. Like this, I think this is going to be another game week with quite a lot of goals in and probably 1 or 2 surprises. I think straight away some of the ties that are standing out to me is obviously Barnet, just for the whole reason of, can they get back on track, or can they get the 3 points back? But I know Chris will probably come on to it in a second. You are probably a little bit more nervous looking at that game than maybe I would be. But yeah, that's probably one that I'm looking at. What else have we got? Another one that's kind of sticking out to me is obviously Gateshead versus Eastleigh. 1 and 2 in this division, even though it's so early on, that is going to be a tasty one. I think that is probably an early contender for joint tie of the round, if I'm being honest, just because of where both sides are, and is it going to be the Paul McCallum show, or is it going to be the more sort of team press, passing around beautiful football that Rob Elliott seems to deploy at Gateshead? And then my third and final pick for ones to look out for would probably be, I think you've got to say Sutton, Forest Green, haven't you? Again, two massive teams in this division coming down from League Two, both having very, very rather well starts to the season. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. I think you've got quite contrasting styles in terms of, Sutton like to play kind of very, again, very attractive, quite fast flowing football at times, whereas Forest Green are probably your more sort of physical, like not Route One, because that's probably a bit disrespectful, but probably more physically demanding sides. So it's kind of two styles against each other. But they're the three picks for me. What about you, Chris? What are you thinking? Is there anything else that stands out for you?
Well, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned your game. I think that's probably one of the big games of the tie. Derby in Greater Manchester, Altrincham against Oldham. I think that's going to be a cracker down
I think
at Mothless Lane.
if it was last, maybe this is me being a bit disrespectful to Altrincham, but if it was last season, then I probably would have said, yeah, that's a that's a tough one for us. But with how sort of differently both teams have started this year in terms of Alti's poor start and then Oldham's relatively good start, I'm kind of going there thinking if we've got any sort of promotion aspirations or playoff aspirations, we need to be going there and winning that quite comfortably. So it's not that I expect us to win, but it doesn't feel as big of a game as it did this time last year when all two were flying and they had Chris Clark, probably the best player in the division, controlling the midfield.
Yeah, I give that as a fair comment. But I still think it'll be a little bit. Always the derby games are very interesting to see how they go. But another good game I think will be Rochdale Woking. Obviously, Woking have won their last 3 National League fixtures, so I think that's going to be one to watch out. And Rochdale are doing very well for themselves so far. And another one I like is Dagenham against York. I think that's going to be an interesting game to see because Dagenham have looked quite good, and York have got a great squad. But again, with the ownership structure, it'd be interesting to see how they perform in a difficult away game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to think of any else that kind of is popping out to me. I mean, you've got maybe Fylde versus Southend in terms of, again, I think they're two very talented squads. I think Southend are going to be really interesting now with their embargo lifted with some of the players that they've signed, especially George Moncur. By the way, I know we didn't mention that in the podcast this week, but what a signing that is on paper for this level. Like, that is ridiculous, if I'm being honest. And then I think Fylde have got some very good individuals. One mainly that we talk about every week, but they've also got Eustabi and players like that. So I think that'll be a very good technical showcase. But so considering Lauren's not here and I won't be here, I think it's only fair for us to highlight a game of the week for you and Loz to discuss together next week, and then you can help me pick a Loz's game of the week for next week. So let's do that first. So the thing is, straight away, I think there's two you're looking at here, if I'm being honest. I think we could either go Eastleigh and Gateshead, just banking on the fact that they're 1 and 2, even though it's so early, or you could go the 5:30 Sutton and Forest Green, because it's two teams dropping out from a higher division. Both have aspirations of getting out here on the first attempt. So yeah, I think they're the two that stick with me. Would you agree? And if you do agree, which way would you go in terms of which one would you put a bit more focus on?
Yeah, I think they're going to be both the sort of games of the round, I think. I would probably lean towards the 5:30, I think, with Sutton against Forest Green Rovers as the game of choice I would go for.
Okay, then, considering I'm not going to be here, I will let you take that. And
we'll go.
So that means next week, before you look ahead to game week would that be game week number 7 next week? I think it would, wouldn't it? So
no
before you look ahead to the game week number 7 fixtures, you and Lauren will come together and do a bit of a spotlight review on that game itself.
Yeah.
And then for Lozzie's game of the week, how are we going to play this? Are we going to stitch her up and give her what we deem to be one of the boring games of the week to try and test her knowledge, or shall we give her something a bit exciting? What are you thinking?
A game I like we haven't spoken about is Ebbsfleet versus Halifax, because I think they're both teams that haven't really started the season at all well, bar Halifax's shock win against Barnet. I think that's a really interesting game, especially Ebbsfleet at home if they can try and get their first win of the season. So that could be the game of choice, I think.
Yeah, go on then. I like giving a. Yeah, I think Ebbsfleet is like we've said on the Monday review this week. They are the prime example of, even though we're only 5 games in, I'm looking at Ebbsfleet and I'm thinking, wow, you're in trouble. So it's probably one of them teams that need to get points on the board and points on the board quickly, because for as long as they don't, they're going to just slip into this rut. And like I said on the podcast on Monday, 5 can become 10, and then by then you are multiple points adrift, and is it too late to save it? So I think that's probably a good shout to me. And then just before, I guess we move on to obviously the preview recaps and looking ahead to doing previews for this week, I just wanted to mention, obviously at the start of at the top of the show, I mentioned that we're doing an EFL deadline day live stream tomorrow, and you're probably thinking, what are you talking about the EFL deadline day live stream for on here? And the reason why I'm pulling it is any sort of National League teams that want to do permanent deals with EFL teams have to get the paperwork done by tomorrow, so there could still be a little bit of movement there, couldn't there, Chris? And also, I wanted to just talk about a few of the signings that have been made since we've probably last been on air, just to keep the views up to date. So I'll start with obviously my boys and what's going on there. So it's been a crazy day to be a working journalist with Oldham ties, really, if I'm being honest. So we've had Otis Khan with us on trial all summer, and then we are 6 weeks into the season pretty much, and he's not signed yet. And the reason for that is there was a little bit of a resolution needed for what his sort of wage demands were and X, Y, and Z. And today, finally, we got it over the line. He signed at Boundary Park, and if I'm being honest, that is a signing that really excites me, because he's got really good pedigree from speaking to some fans of like Grimsby and teams that he's played for in the league previous. They said that he should definitely still be playing League 2 level. It's just kind of injuries that hamper him. So if we can keep him fit, I think we'll have a real big creative outlet on our hands. It's been widely reported that he's coming to play number 10. So that'll be interesting, because we don't have an out-and-out number 10 yet. We don't have like a Chris Clark type player, like like a Callum Whelan type player, like a Regan Booty type player. So it'll be interesting if Khan comes in and does that job, or whether he's going to be a bit more of a versatility player and kind of a bench option, but can play sort of 5-6 positions, because I don't know how much you know about Otis Khan, Chris, but it seems like he can play sort of anywhere amongst that midfield, really, doesn't he? So I just wondered, from a neutral point of view, what do you think of that signing, and is it something that impresses you?
Signing for Oldham, and look, as you said, as a player that can be very versatile, I think in this league is massive. Like the amount of games that National League sides have, like even Saturday, Monday is ridiculous. But even when you got the FA Trophy coming into play, the FA Cup, and this new cup that's going to be announced in November with the Premier League Academy teams coming in. So look, the amount of versatility is really important, and Otis Khan, I think, is a good signing for Oldham. I think it shows that he's got that bit of pedigree and is a player that Oldham I think they needed a little bit. They've got a good attack with Fondop, who's really good. Yeah, not Inief. Sorry. I'm trying to forget Fondop after what he did to us last season. But no, I think I think it's a really, really impressive signing, and one that Oldham fans should be good if they can keep him fit. Though that
Yeah,
would be the only
absolutely,
problem.
absolutely. Just so you're aware, if you're watching on YouTube, for some reason my camera has stopped working. So for now, going forward, just because I don't want to refresh the page and lose what we've done so far, I'm just going to use my mic from now. But I agree. And then obviously the other part of that deal that is kind of in the works, we can't say much about it yet because it's not confirmed. But it's been having me in tatters all day, really, if I'm being honest, is the apparent alleged soon to be announced loan signing or loan return signing of Mr. Josh Stones to Oldham Athletic as well. Apparently, that is going to get done tomorrow. And that is one that kind of really excites Oldham fans because he obviously is only a 20-year-old lad. He only played 4 games for us last season, but he got 2 goals and assists in them 4 games, and then got an injury, and that's the only reason why he went back to Wigan. He kind of changed our attack, and he brought the best out of Norwood in them 4 games. You know, we went 2 up top and sort of kind of really began to take it to teams and really began to become a sort of really nice free flowing football team when he was in the side. So I'm really looking forward to that. The sort of complex part of that deal is there was multiple reports this afternoon on Twitter, wasn't there, Chris, that could potentially be a permanent deal. And look, I can't come on here and say either way, really. That could still happen. But Paul Kendrick, the Wigan athletic correspondent, the main one on Twitter, he has tonight tweeted that from who he's spoken to in the club, he doesn't expect Josh Stones to leave Wigan permanently, and expects it to be a loan deal if it happens. But then obviously there's certain people from our end saying that the permanent deal is still going to go ahead. So it's kind of a hard one to read at the minute. So we'll have to keep our ears to the ground for that tomorrow, and obviously look at the movement, because obviously that's another one that if it is a permanent deal, it has to get done by the 11 o'clock deadline tomorrow, because he is an AFL player, so that should move rather quickly if it is going to happen. But obviously I know it's hard because he's 20 and he only played 4 games, but I just wondered if you had any sort of thoughts on that signing yourself, Chris.
Oldham fans really excited by the move, which is good for them. And you know what? I think it'll be a player that will really turn the tide for Oldham. I think from going from maybe playoff contenders to maybe champion contenders. And look, I think it's a very good signing and something that Oldham can really push forward. And it's a big boost. I think obviously, as you said, last season he was in. And if they can get him on loan for the season and keep him fit, I think it's a really strong signing for Oldham and something that the fans can really get excited about.
Amazing. So we will see, and obviously, like, I think we're learning being in this industry. The reason why we have to say alleged in front of everything is, especially football transfers, things can change in the space of 5 minutes. So you can put a tweet up, you can speak to someone and they're like, yeah, X, Y, and Z is going to sign, and then you're writing an article, and then you click your fingers and it's fell through. So that's why we can't put anything alleged, anything in concrete, because you never know what's going to happen with football. But yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and it could be a busy day for Oldham Athletic with the deadline day for AFL approaching tomorrow. Another one that's happened today that really sort of piques my interest league-wise is Tim Akinola going to Dagenham and Redbridge on loan from Chesterfield. Now, this signing to me is impressive to say the least, isn't it, Chris? Really sort of dynamic, strong midfielder, you know, sort of really sort of physical, can drive your team forward on the ball, kind of got all the attributes that you would want for this division, really. I mean, is it something that excites you as much as it excites me as a neutral? Like, what is your sort of thoughts and opinions on that signing?
And for Dagenham, and look, I've seen Tim Akinola play a couple times against us. I think he absolutely bosses the midfield every single time he's played against us. And I think it's something that Dagenham needed. Like, I thought they were a bit weak in midfield going into the season. And look, this is a unbelievable signing, I think. For a player of his caliber to go on and look, he's there for the season. So I think it's a very solid signing. And look, I think Chesterfield, they're going to get the experience out of him that maybe will push him on Obviously, if they don't want to keep him, which potentially if they go up this season, I don't think Chesterfield will keep the player personally. But look, I think it's a really Dagenham are showing some intent now with their signings, and Ben Strevens is sort of understanding his squad a bit more now than he did when he first came in, which was Dagenham was a tough place to come into after the state the club was in, and I think he's sort of now steering the ship in the correct way. So it's a really good signing for Dagenham. I think the fans will be excited about him.
Yeah, I agree definitely. And just to finish off this little impromptu segment that we've got going for transfers, from a Barnet point of view, are we expecting anything sort of on the Barnet front, Chris? Are you hearing anything? Is there any whispers of any movement for your boys tomorrow? Like, what is the sort of latest on the transfer front for Barnet? Oops, have we lost him? I think we might have lost him for a split second. I'll just. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, one sec.
Yeah, you're there. You're good. Yeah. So, what are we expecting? Anything from a Barnet persuasion tomorrow? Is there any sort of more signings or anything like that expected?
So I think Barnet are definitely in the hunt for a striker. That's something that has not been denied. Brennan said it multiple times, but he said we're going to wait for the EFL window to close. We were looking at Shamanga, but he's gone to Swindon. But that's somewhere we definitely need to improve. Obviously, Kabamba's out for I think 3 weeks, and Callum said that he's a good player, but I don't think he can lead the line for us. So a striker definitely is needed. But look, I think we're just going to wait and see what the EFL happens in the EFL window tomorrow, and then I think maybe when we play Gateshead and Altrincham, we may have something then. But we definitely need a backup striker for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've got one that you could have a look at if you wanted. I'm not his agent, so I can't broker the deal. But we've got Mr. Alex Reid, who I think, especially if Josh Stones comes in, I don't see why he gets any game time at all, unfortunately, for Reedy. So maybe that's something people can look at. I don't really know. But look, we are nearly halfway through the podcast, so I think it's a perfect time for us to let you lovely listeners listen to our sponsors. So we'll be back in a few moments once you've heard from our sponsors. So we are back. You've just heard from our wonderful sponsors who, without their help and support every week, National League Natter wouldn't be a thing, and we are steamrolling you with content, and that wouldn't be able to be a thing without them. So we really appreciate them. But it is time for the juicy second half of the podcast, Chris, and your debut entering the predictions gauntlet. Now, it's a bit of a sticky one this week, really. So Chris is not in on the tattoo forfeit just purely because he joined us after we agreed this and after we'd done the first week. So it was, it's already been in place. But with Lauren's absence and this being such a big part of the preview show, we needed to still make it happen. So that means that Chris is turning into Lauren for the next 25-30 minutes. And his predictions and his thoughts of the game count as Lauren's predictions. So with that extra pressure, Chris, how are you feeling? And have you been keeping a track of the predictions league, watching yourself going forward this season? And what do you think? Obviously, I'm holding a very, very slender 3-point lead at the minute after is it three previews we've done, I think. So yeah, how are you feeling with that extra pressure of sort of batting for Lauren when she's not here, and how are you excited to get your teeth into your first lot of predictions?
I'm quite nervous, I'll be honest, because this is a lot of pressure. Like, I don't want to mess up, and if that's the difference between the forfeit and not, so yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to claw back some points for Lauren, and I'm sure I will be able to.
I like the confidence. So I guess first of all, what we should do before we get into this week's, let's recap last week's. So basically, Chris, if you've got them in front of you, I think what we should do is you should read out mine and Lauren's predictions, and then read out the actual scores, just to give the viewers and listeners a idea of how the land lies going into this week. If that's okay.
Yeah, let me just grab it one sec. Take a moment.
Also, we've made quite a pack, right? Because actually, while you're getting this up, I just wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on something. The Predictions League caught fire within the Twitter realms of National League last week, as with one specific fan base not taking very kindly to Lauren's prediction. What was it? Was it a 4-0 4-0 defeat for York against Sutton, if I'm mistaken, the last one we did? And we always tend to go for one big result in the Predictions League between us, or one each, just to make it interesting. But to be fair, it shocked me when Lauren decided to go for this. And Christ alive, the Twitter reaction was interesting, to say the least, wasn't it, Chris? What did you think of that, really? And she's brave to pull something like that out of the bag, isn't she, I guess?
Yeah, you know what? Fair play. That's a bold prediction, something I wouldn't have gone for. But look, that's part of the predictions show. And look, it didn't work out. But you know what? This league is so crazy. So I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a 4-0 result. But
and technically, I will give her a little bit of credit, because she did say 4-0, but there was 4 goals in the game, split across 2 teams. So she wasn't a million miles away saying that there was going to be 4 goals in the game. And before we get into this, well, recapping last week's, I'd just like to add on to that this is literally just 2 friends running a podcast and giving a bit of prediction for a laugh. If you go away from this podcast and take it serious enough to call somebody an idiot or a clown, like I seen in our DMs last week, somebody having an opinion on your football team losing, then I think you need to have a stiff look at yourself in the mirror, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but you know what? It's what opinions are for. But anyway, so I've finally got the graphic after searching Twitter. So the score before game week 4 was 26-28 to Aaron. So going through the games, Dagenham. Oh, I need to get the scores up. Sorry. One sec. So Dagenham drew 1-1 with Halifax, and the predictions were, as I just get it up. Sorry about this. I should have had this open before.
Just for a bit more context, Chris isn't just unprofessional for the sake of it. He has been having some technical issues with his headphones as we have been leading into the ad break. That's why he's a bit all over the place at the minute.
I'm all over. Right, I've got it up. So the score was 1-1, and Lauren predicted 2-0, and you predicted 2-1, which means no one gets any points on that one. And then for Gateshead against Yeovil, the score was 3-1 to Gateshead, with Lauren predicting a 3-1 victory and Aaron predicting a 1-0 win for Yeovil. So he doesn't get any points on that one, and Lauren picks up 2. So for the next game, we have Fylde versus Maidenhead, and Lauren went with 1-1, and Aaron went with a 2-1 victory for Fylde, and the score was 0-0. And then for the next game, Aldershot versus Oldham, Lauren went with a 1-0 win for Oldham. Aaron went with a 2-0 win for Oldham. And what was the score, Aaron? Do you remember? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? It's not shown on here.
This one's in my chest a little bit. This is an awful start, by the way. Yes, Aldershot humbled us a little bit, and it was a 4-1, but a very strange 4-1. I will stand by. But yeah, 4-1. Congratulations.
Thank you for that. And then the next game was Altrincham against Eastleigh, with the predictions being for Lauren a 2-1 win for Eastleigh, and Aaron went 1-1. So that means Lauren gets 2 points for that, and Aaron gets 0 points. So for the next one, we have got my boys Barnet against Southend. The score was 2-1, with Lauren putting 2-2 and Aaron putting 3-1, with the score being 2-1 to the Bees, which means Aaron gets 2 points and Lauren gets 0. And for the next game, we've got Boston against Tamworth. And Lauren went with a 2-0 win for Tamworth, and Aaron's only got it bang on with a 1-1 draw, which means he gets the maximum 3 points available. Moving on to the next, which is Ebbsfleet against Woking, which ended 3-0 to Woking. And the score of the predictions were 2-1 for Lauren and 2-0 for Aaron, so you get 2 points. Then for the next game, which was Hartlepool against Wealdstone, which ended in 1-1. Neither hosts get a point, with both predicting. It was Lauren with a 1-0 win and Aaron predicting 3-1. So no points on those ones. And then Rochdale against Forest Green, also both hosts getting 0 points, with being a 0-0 draw, and Lauren predicting 2-1, Aaron predicting 1-0. And then Solihull against Braintree. Again, another no-point score for the host, with the score being 1-1, with Lauren predicting 3-1 and Aaron predicting Lauren predicting 2-0, Aaron predicting 3-1. And then the last one, again, no points for the host, with Sutton, York being 2-2, and the host picking 4-0 for Lauren and 2-1 for Aaron, which puts the score...
I think listening to that, I think Loz will probably be quite happy she's not on here today, because I know how embarrassed she gets with this type of thing sometimes. So, yes, it is probably the smallest points picking that we'll probably get all season. But am I going to take the victory? Yes, I am. Am I going to gloat in the victory? Yes, I am. It's pulled me a bit clear now with the overall score. And Lauren, I know you'll be watching and listening, so I can hear that. I can hear that a tattoo gun starting to buzz. I'm not going to lie. I know we're only 5 weeks in, but it's getting closer and closer. And yeah, I can't wait. But go on then, give us the official numbers heading into this week.
So going into this game week is a lead from the man from Oldham of a slender 3 points, 35 to 32. So interesting. Keeps it close.
Basically, you need at least a perfect score next week and something else to take Lauren into the lead.
That's got to be the aim. But it will be interesting to see.
So actually, while we get onto it now, then I would like to give you the honour, considering it's your first preview show and you are stepping in for Lauren at very last minute, and we appreciate it. Would you like to go top to bottom for your predictions, please? And as we go, just make sure you're writing it down so we can send it to the best social media admin in the game, Callum, so we can make the lovely preview prediction graphic for you all the lot to see before the games kick off tomorrow. So yeah, let's go top to bottom with your predictions, Chris.
Right.
Please.
So starting off with Aldershot Town against Maidenhead United, I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to the Shots against Maidenhead. So I'm just putting that in. So next game is the big derby in Greater Manchester. It's Alty versus Oldham Athletic. Now, what do I do? Do I back Oldham, or do I... Will Aaron screw me over here? I don't think so. I think Oldham are going to get the job done. I'm going to put Alty 0, Oldham 2. Nice. I think they get all 3 points. And then I'm going
to call his bluff early on because I felt like I could trust Chris before we even started recording, and said, I will tell you what my prediction was for the Oldham game before we started recording. And lo and behold, he's just absolutely copied my word for word prediction.
You know what? I genuinely forgot that, but I'll stick with 2-0. Maybe we'll both be wrong. But
it backs me into a corner to pick something different now.
Well, maybe.
Anyway, continue.
Barnet against Tamworth. I'm going to go 3-0 Bees. I think we're going to bounce back against Tamworth.
Again, I've got a question to you again. You literally just said to me, and you've said it in the podcast, you're a bit worried about the game and that Tamworth could cause you problems. And I know you've always got to back your team because that's what I do, but you've gone from being a bit worried to seeing Tamworth could pick up a point to going 3-0 to the Bees. Interesting.
Interesting. You know me, we like to sit on the fence on this podcast. Sometimes we'll make our decisions. And then the next game is Boston versus Yeovil. I think Boston win this 1-0. I'm going to go 1-0 Boston over.
Carry on now they've got the sniff of one result. You think they'll go on to a bit of a run?
I think so. And I think I think Boston's home record will carry them over this season. So I think that's the game they'll pick up all 3 points. Then moving on to Daggers versus York City, which is an interesting game. I'm going to go for 1-1. I just think Daggers at home look quite good, and I think they'll pick up the win. And then we've got Ebbsfleet.
I'm impressed with you so far, Chris, because I must say so. It's normally within the first 2 results that Lauren picks a draw. So you've actually managed to get the first 4 down before you pick the draw. So maybe
this could be the demise, though.
Maybe you're a little bit braver than Lauren is. Who knows? And yes, I am still calling out Lauren when she's not here because it's just what we do. But yeah, anyway.
Okay. So next game, Ebbsfleet against Halifax. I'm going to go Ebbsfleet 0, Halifax. Go 2 or 3. We'll go for 2. We'll play it safe. Ebbsfleet 0, Halifax 2. And then the next game is against Fylde against Southend. Okay, I'm going to go bold. I think Southend are going to lose 2-1 to Fylde. I think that's the bold prediction we've put in. Then Gateshead against Eastleigh. Go Gateshead. Go Gateshead 4.
Ooh.
Eastleigh 2. Go for a 4-2 victory.
I can't wait for Eastleigh fans to come and roast you when I'm not here.
I can't wait. They come from Eastleigh fans. And then we've got Hartlepool versus Braintree. Let's go. Hartlepool did get a red card last week. I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Oh my God, this man is you're either brave or stupid with some of these.
I don't know. I back my boy John Akindi if you're listening. John Akindi, what a man. Rochdale versus Woking. I think Woking will keep going 100% in their last 4. So yeah, I'm gonna go 1-0 Woking. Then we've got Solihull versus Wealdstone. I'm gonna go for 3-1 to the Mighty Moors. And then the final game, which is the 5:30, Sutton versus Forest Green. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win for Sutton.
Amazing.
They are my predictions.
So, considering it's your first show, and I know this will wind up Lauren because I don't let her do this, I'm going to let you do something that neither of us normally get to do. I will give you a quick 30-second look to see if you want to change anything, or if not, you have to turn around now on this podcast and say, Aaron, I'm ready to lock in. So,
Aaron, I'm ready to lock in.
Oh my God, he's gone for it. He's brave.
That's it.
He's brave. He's brave.
Right. I've locked in my predictions, and I'm ready to hear yours. See if you've copied any of mine.
Well, before I was going to actually go on to mine, just for people that might have struggled to keep up, do you want to just go top to bottom with your predictions?
Yeah. Okay. So Aldershot against Maidenhead, I've gone for a 3-1 win for the Shots. Alty against Oldham, I've gone for Oldham to win 2-0. Barnet against Tamworth, I've gone for the 3-0 to the Bees. Boston Yeovil, I've gone for 1-0 to Boston. Daggers York, I've gone for 1-1. Ebbsfleet Halifax, I've gone 2-0 Halifax. Fylde Southend, I've gone 2-1 for Fylde. Gateshead Eastleigh 4-2 to Gateshead. Hartlepool Braintree 1-1. Rochdale Woking 1-0. Solihull Wealdstone 3-1 and Sutton 3 FGR 0.
Amazing. Right then, are we ready?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
I feel like there's pressure on now because I've got a gap. I know it's only 3 points, but I've got a gap and
it's not a lot.
I need to either hold it or try and extend it. So let's think about this methodically. Right, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to give Aldershot a 2-1 home win. Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
By the way, I'm hoping you're writing my predictions down for me as
I'm
well.
writing your. I've got yours down, mate. Don't you worry.
Okay, perfect. And then second up, again, I can't back against my boys ever, so I'm sorry, you might call me biased, but it's not happening. So I'm gonna go a 3-1 Oldham Athletic away win. I'm gonna go
3-1.
3-1, please.
Okay.
I'm gonna go a big win in London for the Bees this weekend. And I apologise because I actually really like Tamworth. I think they've been really resolute and really sort of defensively strong, and they've got better and better as the season has gone on so far. But I think this one's going to be a really tough one. I think Barnet are going to be chomping at the bit to right the wrongs from Monday, and yeah, I think this will be a big result. So I'm going to go 4-1 to Barnet.
4-1. Okay.
I'm going to go directly against you here, and I think Yeovil will get their third win of the season against Boston, unfortunately. I do think it'll be tighter than the Barnet Tamworth game, but I do think Yeovil will come away with a 2-1 away victory here.
Nice.
Dagenham and York, I think, will be a 1-1 draw. Halifax and Ebbsfleet at home to Halifax. I think the Shaman will get the away win, and I think it will be relatively comfortable, and I think it will be 2-0 to Halifax.
Interesting. Copying my last two scores. Very nice.
Just giving you a bit of payback for what you did to my Oldham boys.
Yeah. Very true.
Fylde Southend. Now, I think Southend have this in the bag. I think Fylde will score inevitably, probably through Mr. Magic Man Horton, but I think Southend will win this 3-1. Gateshead Eastleigh. I think will be quite a high scoring game, like you, Chris. But I don't think I'm going to be as brave as you. I think I'm going to evenly distribute the goals, and I'm going to say this will be a 2-2 draw on the day, I think.
Interesting.
Hartlepool versus Braintree. Now, I fancy the Pool to get the win and get it in quite comfortable fashion at home. I'm going to go 3-0 Hartlepool. Rochdale Woking. Now, this is where I've got to let my head rule my heart, and everyone knows my public born and bred rivalry being an Oldham fan about not being too nice to Rochdale. But I know Woking have done really well, but I don't expect. We've said it in the review. If I'm being honest, we don't expect Woking to continue this for too long. We don't really expect them to be up and around it. So I think Rochdale are going to do a professional job and take the sting out of the run for Woking this week, and I think it will be 2-1 to Rochdale at home.
Very nice.
I think Solihull Moors and Wealdstone will be a 1-1 victory, a 1-1 draw.
Oh, yeah, that's
a 1-1 draw, please. And then the half five, another tasty one of the game week. I will go Sutton, Forest Green, and I'm going to go 3-2 to Sutton.
Interesting predictions there.
So, will you go from top to bottom on my predictions again, Chris, please?
Yeah, let's go for it. So, Shots 2, Maidenhead 1. You've gone for Alty 1, Oldham 3. Barnet 4, Tamworth 1. Boston 1, Yeovil 2. Daggers 1, York 1. Ebbsfleet 0, Halifax 2. Fylde 1, Southend 3. Gateshead 2, Eastleigh 2. Yeovil 3, Braintree 0. Rochdale 2, Woking 1. Solihull 1, Wealdstone 1, and Sutton 3, Forest Green 2.
Very nice. Quite a lot of getting goals in my predictions, and hopefully that's right. Eh?
You've gone quite bold, but we'll have to see.
That is your first stab at predictions league over, Chris. How are you feeling? Have the nerves subsided? Are you confident in your predictions?
I'm confident. I've gone for a couple of interesting shouts, which I think hopefully for Lauren's sake will come through. But we'll have to see come 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Amazing. Now, just a couple of things, just housekeeping from me just before we finish. Obviously, like I said, I am away after the live stream on tomorrow for the EFL deadline day, which will be brought to you across our deck channels. So make sure you're listening to that. Like I said, there's plenty of National League interest, even though it's a Football League transfer deadline. So make sure you tune into that. And then in terms of, obviously, this will be yours and Lauren's first time presenting together. Not just one show, 2 shows in a week. How are you excited to get to work with Lauren for the first time? Are you sort of excited to have the reins a little bit? Like what's gonna happen? Basically, what I'm saying to you is, am I gonna come away from Vegas and this show either be elevated to the stars or is it going to be burnt to the ground? Where do you think it's going to go, Chris?
Oh, it's going to be elevated to the stars, 100%. Look, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's going to be a different style, I think, with me doing the hosting, which I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for it. And I'm sure you'll be listening all the way from Las Vegas.
I'll make sure I'm listening with one of my pina coladas once I've won a couple of grand on a roulette wheel. Don't worry. But it's been a pleasure as always. We hope you've enjoyed listening to the show. Obviously, Chris's first preview show, so make sure you go and follow him show him some love on the social media channels. Try and get his following up a little bit because this man deserves it. He's come into the podcast and he's got straight on the work grind and brought out the best in me and Lauren and pushed us to new levels. So yeah, he really deserves the support and the credit. Obviously, a little bit of a shorter one this week because maybe we're a little bit faster than me and Lauren because me and Lauren go on all different types of routes and sort of diversions as we go. But I've really enjoyed it. Chris, have you had fun?
Yeah, I've had fun, and thank you very much for the kind words. So I appreciate the words, and look, I'm looking forward to. Well, I think we've got one more show before you go away on Saturday.
Yeah,
which will be out on Sunday.
I will be here for Saturday's Match Day 6 review. That is right. But then, obviously, the preview show on the Thursday and maybe potentially the following review show, depending on how my body deals with jet lag, will be yours and Lauren's to take. So I am very excited to listen to that. And like I said, I will see you guys in about 10 days' time by the time I get back onto the podcast. We've been the National League Natter. This has been Match Day 6 preview. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Take care.